Welcome to the Ignited Recovery Podcast, a new way forward for anyone looking for answers but feeling left out. If you've been searching for empowerment, triumph, and purpose, you've found them right here. You won't hear the same solutions, and you're not going to have any excuses to fall back on, because Ignited Recovery allows heroes to rise and become their best selves. I'm Dr. Adi Jaffe, and I can't wait to be your guide on this journey. Are you ready to become an ignited hero? All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Ignited Recovery Secrets Podcast. Welcome to Friday. Don't forget to screen grab and share and tag me at Dr. Adi Jaffe with your biggest takeaway. I love seeing them, first of all. Secondly, it really helps me understand what topics you want to hear about in the future. And thirdly, we get to connect. So how nice is all of that? And with that uplifting intro, I'm going to introduce today's topic, which is fear. We all have them. We've all got fears in our lives. Last week, I don't know if you saw this or not, but I shared on Instagram in one of my Instagram lives on one of the biggest fears that is holding me back, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit too. And I also asked in my Instagram stories about what are your biggest fears that are holding you back? And I got about a dozen answers, and so we will share those results. But I want you to think right now, assuming you're not one of the 12 to 15 people that shared with me on Instagram, or maybe even if you are, maybe you got a new one right now. What is one of the biggest fears in your life that is holding you back? All right, I'll give you a moment. All right, you got it? This is the thing, right? We all have fears and insecurities, every single one of us. As I was talking about before, even if we don't see it, and even if they claim that they don't exist, the Gary V's of the world and the Tony Robbins and the Mark Cubans, you know, their fear might not be the same as yours. Like, I hope Mark Cuban is no longer having financial insecurity fears about the notion that he might go homeless. But who knows, Mark, if you're listening and that is something you're experiencing, please let us know. You can tag me at Dr. Adi Jaffe. But he probably has other fears. He's got other insecurities and fears just like the rest of us. We are human. It's part of what being human is. And the reason I say that is a lot of people that I talk to believe that their end goal should be to have no fear. Somehow to like wake up in the morning and just be completely fearless and, you know, secure in everything that they ever do. And I think that's just not the right goal even to have. I actually think that if you look at it the right way, that fears and insecurities can drive you to become better. Like, for instance, I have some fears, some that are happening right now in my life. And I'm not talking about like the long-standing ones that I had, like from my middle school and high school years that I've talked about, the ones I've mostly beaten, like having social anxiety or thinking that people don't like me or that, you know, I'm awkward or whatever, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about kind of more real fears around actual things that are happening in my life. Like, I'm still involved in a court case with one of the potential partners from the first company that I ever ran, from Alternatives, the rehab that I co-founded with a partner. That thing fell apart in a way that I never expected it to. I went into it, you know, kind of rose glasses and thinking that everything was going to work out the way I wanted it to. The first year or so, it seemed like things were going to work out that way. And then it gradually fell apart, and it fell apart with some, you know, business legal consequences on the side. And I'll talk more about that maybe in the future about the specifics of it. But I got to tell you, this case, first of all, brought down the treatment center itself and devolved a lot of the other relationships within it and screwed all that up. But also, still now there's a legal case that's pending and might go to trial, and I have fears around that. You know, I have fears that my actions from the past are going to bring down my family, that me failing in this, like Alternatives failed, are going to prove that I'm not cut out to be a successful person, that I'm not capable of making good decisions when it comes to finance and business and partnerships, etc. And, you know, when I say that my actions will bring down my family, you know, sometimes the fears are strong. Like, am I going to literally bring down my family? Am I going to break it apart? Am I going to, you know, create a situation where we don't have somewhere to live? One of those kinds of things. And I don't know if any of those sound familiar to you. Again, share these with me. You're going to see, you know, my whole story is about transparency. That's why I'm sharing this with you. Sharing it releases some of the weight that these fears have. So tag me right now. Share some of the fears that you've had. I want to share with you some of the fears that people had talked to me about when I originally shared. Is that okay? So one of the people said, actually a couple of people said that they're afraid of failure. Somebody said that they're afraid of judgment. One of these said letting people in, which is kind of like rejection. A couple of people said rejection. One of these people said continued failure, that I will always need my family or others to support me in life. One of the other participants said failure of not being financially secure. I had a couple of people that talked about financial security or being able to support themselves. I can't seem to get ahead after some repercussions of past behavior. I'm afraid I won't be able to. And then trying something new and failing, which is really common too, right? The idea of I'm going into uncharted territory and I don't know if I'll come out of it. So those are some of the fears that people shared with me, and we'll get into some of these in detail here in a minute. But everybody has fears, guys. We all do. You know, when I was that maybe in the middle, I think in the middle of alternatives, I was relying on on a business advisor from this group of people who was a part of a nonprofit, help new businesses, help entrepreneurs figure out how to make better decisions. We were sitting in a meeting, we were just over coffee, just like this mall like 30 minutes. It was not the nicest. This is not like a business meeting like you see in the movies. We're literally just sitting at a coffee shop in the middle of a mall having a conversation. And one of the biggest takeaways that I took from that conversation was this. He said, you know, look, in business, there are two types of issues you're going to run into. There are problems and there are realities. He said, before you go and try to fix something and get rid of it somehow, make sure that what you're trying to fix is not a reality, because realities can't be fixed. Problems can be fixed. Realities you have to learn how to deal with. Well, guess what? Having fears as part of your life, it's a reality. It's normal. Letting those fears become debilitating in a way that holds you back from action and moving forward in life, that's a problem that you need to solve. Okay? So having fears, reality. Having debilitating fears that make you unable to act, a problem. And there are a lot of techniques. We're not going to be able to get into all of them, because I keep these things short, but also it takes sometimes really being able to sit with somebody and understand the specific issues they're dealing with. But here's a technique that can feel a little scary at first, but almost always results in people having insight into their fears that they hadn't thought about before. And so I want to share a simple one here. It'll let you dive in a little bit more deeply into at least one fear that you can identify right now. Hopefully you already did that earlier today. So if not, I'll give you another second to think about a fear that might be holding you back. Okay. All right. So if you think about this fear, imagine for a moment the worst case scenario. Literally work through it in your head. The absolute worst case scenario, the absolute worst thing that could ever happen because of this fear, this activity, this event that might happen in your life. So you think through it, kind of tell the story in your head. What is that? Okay, like for me, let's say with this court case, let's say I lose the court case and I end up owing, I don't think this could happen even in court, but let's say hundreds of thousands of dollars that I don't have. There are two worst case scenarios. I end up having to pay incremental payments for a very long time in my life, which I kind of had to do because of some debt that the company had already anyway, or I have to declare bankruptcy. Now I got to tell you, that sounds really bad to me, right? Like the concept of declaring bankruptcy sounds horrible to me, but also that's the absolute worst thing that could happen in my life. Like I'm not going to go homeless because of this. I have family that loves me in Israel. I have family who supports me if I need to move in with them. If whatever the scenario is, I'm not going homeless. I'm not going to be alone forever. And by the way, I talked to Sophie about this. She's not going to leave me because of this. But, this isn't that kind of a problem. I'm not going to be alone forever. Okay, so that's not that. I'm not going to die from it. My kids aren't going to stop loving me. Like, none of my friends will leave me because of this if I fail in this case. They know my intentions. They know I went into all of this with the best intentions moving forward. That was not my, I didn't do anything wrong in that sense. Okay, so the worst case scenario is I'm going to have some real financial difficulties for a little while because of this. Now that I have the worst case scenario, and hopefully you've thought out the worst case scenario for your own issue, I have to think to myself, and do this for yourself, where do I have control over this outcome? What can I do? Like I can prepare for the court case as best as I can. I can read case law, I can talk to my attorney, we can prepare questions and have statements from people who support my case. I can try to reach out to the other party and work out a settlement that works out. There are things that I can do to have control. Then there are aspects that are completely out of my control. Like, what is the other side going to do? I don't have any control over that, right? Who's the judge and what are their sentiments in this case? I don't have any control over that as far as I know, right? So I kind of split things up in that way. And then you say, okay, based on the things that I do have control over, have I prepared to the best of my ability in those areas? Like in preparing for a trial, let's say, did I sit down with my attorney, or will I sit down with my attorney and put all the things in play? If you're concerned of failure, we'll talk about some of the issues of failure in terms of school. I'm going to start school, but I don't know if I'll be able to graduate, or I don't know if I'll be able to finish this class. What do you control? What do you not control? Did you prepare the homework the best that you could? Did you have the conversation with the professor you needed to, et cetera, right? There's any aspect that you can control, that you identify that you can control. Have you done the best to prepare on that side? If not, go and do some work. Don't just sit around and worry about them, right? That's not going to fix it, and you do have control over there. So go and address that to the best of your ability. But when it comes to the areas that you have no control over them, recognize that, identify them, and then let go of the anxiety around it. Because the anxiety is just going to make things worse. And no anxiety, worry, or stress is going to change the outcome in those areas. Focus your energy on the areas where you do have some control. Now, if you do that, you should find yourself with the strategy in place, and also, as the time comes and nears whatever it is that you might be scared of, best prepared for that uncertain outcome in the future, right? Outcomes are always uncertain in the future. When you buy a lottery ticket, they're uncertain. When you enter school, they're uncertain. When you start dating somebody new, they're uncertain. When you have a baby, everything is uncertain. So if we understand that, it's not the uncertainty that scares you. Everything is uncertain. It's just the fact that you haven't let go of the things you can control while preparing the best that you can in the areas that you can. Do that, do the work on that front, and move forward knowing that you are best prepared for what might end up happening. So, for instance, when somebody says, I'm afraid of a fear of failure in a new venture that I want to take on, whether that's a new business or a book they want to write or anything, we know one thing for certain, right? If you don't try this thing, you are going to fail at it with 100% certainty. There's zero chance of success if you don't try it at all. But look, at least you get protected by the excuse of not trying, so it's not like you did something and failed, you just didn't do it and then you failed, right? So you have to decide, which one do you dislike more? Is the problem of not trying more painful than the problem of trying and succeeding? You get to choose there, right? And then if you decide to move forward, identify what pieces you get to control. If it's a book, you could get to control the writing of it and who might you let edit it and proofread it and the design, and those are some of the things you get to control, right? You don't get to control how the market responds. You don't get to control how Joey, who you've never met in Arkansas, is going to end up liking your story. But you can control aspects of the marketing of it. You can control aspects of who you get to read it and review it. You can control aspects of it in that way, right? For the people on the Instagram story who talked about the fear of rejection, of letting people in, that is so common. That is probably one of the main reasons why people don't engage in new relationships after kind of like high school and college and the beginning of their work life. But I know I've talked to a lot of people that actually feel very lonely because of that fear of rejection and letting people in. So make a decision. Is being alone worse than being let down? If you decide that being alone is not worse than being let down, then you get to stay alone and you get to be successful in that decision. But if you decide that being alone is worse than being let down, then you're making a decision that you would like to move forward to meet new people and let them in. So now what can you do to increase the chances that the people that you do develop new relationships with will be there for long term and support the real you? I have some ideas about that, right? Like maybe have honest conversations with them from the get-go? How many of you have tried to put on your best face when you meet a new set of friends and I don't know, pretend, go to fancier dinners, wear your nicest clothes, whatever. I'm just saying, pretend and put on this mask and this costume for them. Why not have honest conversations from the get-go so they get to know the real you and make a decision about who they want to be friends with? Maybe you've had past relationships and some things happen that result in destruction in past relationships, and you do your absolute best to stop yourself from doing those things in these new relationships. And here's a public service announcement. Opening somebody else's mail for them, unless you've been long-term married, is not helpful for anybody, right? Snooping, not a great idea in anybody else's life unless for some reason you have had that conversation, like Sophie can open my mail whenever she wants to, and have agreed that that's okay. Once you figure out what are the things that you get to control, prepare the best of your ability, move forward in the direction you decided, stay alone or meet new people. Put those systems in place to reduce the likelihood that you will end up in rejection and move forward. Because the end, and that is I will find friends that will be long-term and trustworthy, is uncertain. But if you never reach out, I'm certain that you won't meet new people, right? We know that. When it comes to the fear of financial insecurity, of always needing others to support you, that can be a really difficult one, especially for a lot of the people that I deal with who have, I'll say screwed up, but have had so many obstacles in their life to getting on their own feet and standing up on their own. That can be really, really difficult. It ties back to my own fears that I talked about earlier, right? Like I've overcome a lot. I always felt like I was 5 or 7 years behind because of the years that I spent in jail and the years that I was addicted to drugs. And even in my first real business endeavor after school, it created more financial insecurity for me. So I totally understand this one. And you need to get very real about what you can do right now to take back some of that control and get started. Whether that means taking a part-time job or doing something on the side to start taking control of your own financial well-being. Not where you want to end up, but taking the first incremental step to get where you want to get. Because a lot of people look for the big opportunity, the thing that's going to rescue them from relying on others. That's not typically how this works out. Small incremental increases in the rewards and the money that you have will end up over time leading to a place where you're independent. You just need to understand that you might need to change jobs or make other plans later on, but move forward in a way that lets you move out of fear and into action. Okay? I'm not going to go over more fears because we can talk about this forever and ever and ever, but you are going to share with me, right, by screenshotting this and sharing some of them with me, and then I'll be able to talk about them in my story. Okay, so got it, guys? Having fears is a reality. Having insecurities is a reality. You're never going to get rid of it. Identify systems in place that you can put in so that those fears do not become debilitating and you get to move forward in life and get where you want to go. Got it? All right, everybody. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in to the Ignited Heroes Recovery Podcast. I really hope you found the information here useful and that we'll see you back here next week. And look, I want to make sure that this podcast is the most useful it can be for you, so please let me know by emailing info@ignited.com if there are any specific topics or questions you'd like to have addressed. As usual, if you like this episode, I would love for you to leave us a 5-star review and rating. Thanks, and see you next week.